My name is Margaret Ann Windsor. Uh, I want to give this bit so you'll know, you have a little background. I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in 41 and brought to Moulton, Alabama, and I was born in 39. I was dropped off in what amounted to a pigsty horror house to grow up in, and they gave me the name of Peggy Ann Dempsey, and Peggy was a twin with Carl, and the mother, Lina Dempsey, had killed both twins. They were born out of wedlock, and I was placed there and given the name of Peggy. And I grew up being told she was my mother, that was my family. It wasn't until late 83 I found out I'd been kidnapped and who my father and mother and who I really am, my real name. But what I want to say was about the murders that I told about really in early 70, and I didn't know how they were committed, just the fact that they were done in patterns. I didn't know the mechanism used to accomplish it. I was working trying to do a medical malpractice book, MD, a license to kill. And one of the doctors I worked for was cardiologist or cardiovascular, and he had put a stent in a heart bypass. The thing is that the stent or chip like they were putting in root canals back then to allow mind control to be accomplished, he put in the heart bypass. And the person was head of a huge corporation. He was chairman, I believe, of the board. So without his knowledge, this was inserted into a heart bypass, and you could modify his behavior, you could control his decision making, or quite frankly, you could make him go out and commit murders. And how would you prove it? Because mind control is invisible unless it's done in patterns, which the ones I'm talking about throughout the years were deliberately done. So you would think at some point this would be over and told, unless things change. They're still going on, let me say that. And I put them on videos, former videos. The media knew all this before I did. They won't tell it because they'd have to tell about my kidnapping and who I am. So I wanted to update. I guess that's a good way to put it, because the shootings, the mass shootings at Aurora, Colorado, or Tucson, Arizona, or Sandy Hook, or the recent ones, whether they're mass or two or three, at the malls have been, the shooters were victims of mind control, so they're victims themselves, and you just really can't get people, they don't want to hear it. They want to blame this person too when they're probably as big a victim or more than anyone. Nobody's immune to it. So if you think you can't be programmed to go out and do it tomorrow, or your child, you're wrong. So I just simply wanted to update, because I found out in 77 when I was doing the book MD, A License to Kill. By the way, Larry Flint was shot in nearby Lawrenceville, Georgia, and the person who shot and killed his attorney and shot Mr. Flint was programmed to do so. And I was doing the book in Marietta. I was living at Moonraker Apartments, and the title of the book was MD, A License to Kill. And I had worked for the cardiologist or cardiovascular surgeon. He was also an internist. And today I was just going back over some of this, because let me go ahead and say this. So much was being done to me and my sons, Mark and Scott. I went to the FBI and got a letter from the U.S. Attorney William Harper, June the 23rd of 79. It was national security involved, ongoing investigation. And then someone who's involved in this, if someone cares to Wikipedia or however Google it, was Jean Seberg. Was murdered, and it was made to look like suicide, but she was harassed. It's who did it. So Anyway, April Fool Day of '80, I was full of antifreeze and should have died. Gone into a common diet, and it was a fiasco. And I thought it was because of the book, when in reality, I found out later I was kidnapped in my real name and what was involved, and that was the real reason for all that happened to me. Now then, I've gone the long way about just updating these because I've got videos on if anybody cares to go back through them and on Facebook. But the one I wanted to update because I brought in the doctor I worked for that was cardiovascular. And that's when I started really finding out about how the murders were committed, and I'd always known they were committed in patterns. But I was looking back, and Jean Harris, well, she's a product of mind control herself. Sad part is she died without knowing what had really happened to her and the whole truth about it. Um, she was convicted of shooting Dr. Herman, what was his name, Turnover, the Scarsdale diet doctor. And I believe he was shot March the 10th of '80, and that was just before I was filled full of antifreeze, April the 1st of '80, and just after I'd received a letter from the U.S. Attorney and FBI, June of '79. Now then, that's when he was shot, and she was convicted, Jean Harris, the schoolmistress, of killing him. And he was a cardiologist himself. And then he wrote Turnover was his name, and then he wrote the Scarsdale diet. Now I wanted to go back to, I didn't remember about him being a heart doctor. I want to go back, if I haven't lost it here, I'm real organized this morning. My ears are stopped up. I can't even hear myself this morning. I have allergies to chemicals, and I can't be around stuff when they clean. I want to go back to another one, and let me say this again. Over the time, I have gone to the media, and I have been worked over and left on the side of the road, and how people have stood by and watched it because they're afraid of who's doing it and the mechanism used, which is mind control. They're afraid of repercussions too. Their jobs, their kids. But here I went back, and over the years there's been a whole list of these that would really shock people, and I'm not sure that they would want to admit. It would have to be laid out in court or in a hearing, and the media pick up on it and have to tell it, which I don't know if that'll happen or not. But I'm going to Claudine Longet, and she was married to Andy Williams, the singer, Moon River and all that. And by the way, he was kin to the Kennedys, and if you care to go back and look at my tapes, who were involved in all this. And mind control, by the way, was used in his shooting, and that of Martin Luther King, but gets into one big mess that they don't want told. But anyway, she shot and killed her Olympic skier boyfriend in Aspen, Colorado, and I believe that was in '76. His name was Spider Savage. So that was really the line. She had a son or two sons. I'm not sure if they were twins. I didn't go back and look this up, and I certainly over the years couldn't keep all this because I've been left homeless and without jobs or anything. Uh, the Longet in it was meant time. It's similar to anyway, I won't try to explain it. The Claudine is similar to Claudia, which is my mother's name. And back then, I did not know. At least, I might have known it psychologically, but I did not remember because I didn't know about my kidnapping until late of '83. And my mother, I found out, is Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor. My father's the real King Edward VIII, who was married to my mom. They used an imposter to marry Wallace Warfield Simpson, take down my father and the New World Order, which is the Bilderbergers, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, My own uncle, George the Sixth, who was illegal, thus the